Hello guys, this is the game between Anish Giri and Aryan Tari. Anish is in white and they played in a Norway Chess Champion 2023 guys. So let's see the game. So Anish opened with e4 and Tari replied with knight f6 guys. And Anish pushed his c pawn and Tari replied with e6, d3, d5, and the best move on his plate. So the best move here was guys like knight d5, but Anis played g3, and the best move for Aryan was to give a check, right? But he played capture, pawn capture, pawn, and for the Anis best move was d bishop g2, and he does that. He played the best move according to the engine. And again, the best move for Aryan was bishop b4, giving a check, but he plays pawn push. So he's striking in the center and on his castles, which is the best move according to the engine guys. And Tari developed his knight, but his like the best move was like developing a knight, and he did that. And the best move for Anis was to capture a pawn, but he developed the queen, pinning the knight. And Tari developed his bishop. Anis capture a pawn, and pushing a pawn is the best move, and also did the same. Tari did the same, and either here or here is the best move for Anis. But I think he goes on b3, yes, which is the first move recommended by the engine guys. And then the best move for Tari is to push the pawn, and he does that. And the best move for Anis is to bring the queen in the beginning, the best square, but like he took the queen in c2, and the best move for Tari was to bring a bishop out, but he brought a queen here. And Anis thrust his pawn up, and Tari's protected his pawn. They exchange a pawn, and the best move for Anis is to develop a knight, which he didn't do. He just developed his mm, bishop, pinning the knight, and Tari also developed his queen. Now he's developed his knight, which is the best move recommended by the engine. And for Tari, either he can push, which is the best move, or he can develop a queen, protecting this backward pawn because it is weak pawn now. But the Tari, he castle. So this gives an opportunity to for Anish to capture the knight and hit the pawn. And this way he will hit this pawn, right, with his knight. And once he will take this pawn, and this pawn will protect this also, no, both way. So he does that. Like he capture the pawn, or like he either they can ruin the pawn structure, which will be very bad. So Tari took it, and Anis captured the pawn, right? And the best move was to hit the knight and also, like threaten the pawn. But this is not happened in a game. In a game, Tari brought his knight forward, and Anis plays very calm move, protecting the knight, hitting the, and protecting his pawn and hitting the knight. If he takes the knight, he takes the knight, right? So this is what happens. He takes the knight. He also took his knight, and the best move for Tari was to retreat his bishop, which he does, and the best move for Anis was to push his pawn, and he pushed his pawn, protecting his pawn because it's like it was hit twice with these two and only one defender. So he pushed this his pawn, and this was a wrong move played by the Tari. It was not a blunder but mistake. The best move was to jinx the queen a little bit, you know. But he pushed the pawn, and it gives an opportunity to Anis to capture the pawn, which is just a pawn sacrifice. And he picked up the knight, and Anis' best move was to take the bishop, but he captured the pawn, maintaining his capture his bishop, maintaining his pawn because he's pawn up. And then he wants try to exchange the queen. And the best move for Tari was to put his bishop, scaring the rook and also protecting his pawn. But he didn't play that. He exchanged a bishop, but before taking up the bishop, Anish ruined his pawn structure by taking the queen. So Tariq's pawn structure is ruined, and now he captured it, and his queen is a little bit in the center than his. It's king. So, and the next move Tari played queen d8, and Anis played queen c1. So he is planning to come into a second rank, and Anis was threatening to take his pawn in a couple of moves, but let's see what happens. And this is what happened. And the best move engine is showing to push the pawn, but Anis played a different, or the same move. I thought like he played. And the best move for Tari was to push the pawn, and he did that. And the best move for Anis was to place his queen to a4, and now they are planning to exchange the one pawn, which is isolated pawn for both of them, and they are in the queen side. And this is what they did. And they exchanged the pawn, and the Tari is ready to exchange a rook. Once they will exchange the rook, the game will be equal, even though Anis is pawn up in good pawn structure, but like Anis didn't wanted to exchange a rook. So the game was developed like this, guys. And from here, the best move, it is saying rook a4, but first Anis gave him a check, and then his check was blocked, and then the rook a4 with the same idea. Now the best move was for Tari was b2, but he didn't. He blundered it. I think like he's going with the same idea now. After this, he will bring this one and bring this one, and this two will be hitting this way, right? But I think it's like to one move late, so And Anis played the best move. He moved uh, his pawn hitting a rook. Now he have to move his rook away, and again he thrust the another pawn. Now he's like taking all of the control all over the board. And Tari moved his rook back, defending the pawn, and the rook kings comes off. Now it is the it's the end game, so king coming forward is important. So he just doesn't want the pawn to go up, right, like this. So, but like the honest put his both the rook in the eighth rank, and now he is ready to give check, and all sort of the ideas are there. And he pushed the pawn, pushed his king, and then once the pawn is pushed, and he pushed the pawn, and he gives a check. And then once king is out in the op, pretty much almost like in the mating net, no, like but like he can give check and all, but it's almost in the very dangerous situation. And he pushed a pawn, and then like he wanted to now exchange a one pair of a rook, because in this way he will win lots of the pawn and easily convert this position. And Anis give him a check, and here he wants to win this pawn and this pawn also, but Tari give him a check, and he took the pawn, and Tari took that pawn, and Anis moved his rook. And the best move for Tari was to move to h2, which he did, hitting this pawn, but Anis pushed that pawn to square up, and the best move for Tari was to hit this pawn. But Tari moved his king one step from here to here, and it is, I think, almost like a bad move, because now Tari almost in the mating net. So Anis pushed his rook, hitting this pawn, and threatening a checkmate. No, like if he didn't do, like let's say like he goes here, then it's just a checkmate, right? Like there's no way to go anywhere. So Tari, so in this position, Tari resigned, guys. So like the best move was like he's saying, but like he's lose this pawn, and then like it just pretty much the winning position for Anis, because he's two pawn off and his king is very badly placed. So yeah, it was a very good win for Anis, guys. Thank you for watching.